22nd, 2020, 3:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Aaron Shepard is as stupid as me, perhaps more stupid. We both got into medical school. I decided not to go. Aaron did a year and decided not to go. I don't know who's... Well, now you make robots and I live above my parents' garage, so technically I believe I am dumber than you. You are marginally less dumb than me. Just a little.
Until you look at my student loans, man, you probably got me beat.
Okay.
That 1 year at med school cost me a lot of
fucking money, man. That's why I was so... I remember my uncle told me that. He was like, you go into private medical school in the United States. He was like, you can't just do a year and then stop. He was like, because once you do a year, the only way you can pay off medical school debt is with a medical salary. And he was like, it's quicksand, man. You put one foot in and you're fucked.
Yeah.
You are proof that that's not entirely true. Because
well, you see, so I still have the student loans. Because I'm in school now, they're deferred. And I'm hoping that, things can take off and
beautiful
I can be able to pay this shit off. But I secretly worry about it, man.
Hey, man, I don't know who doesn't worry about that shit, man. So fuck it, let's just jump into it. So what are the newest developments with your company, man? What's going on with it? What's popping off? How's coronavirus affected it?
The coronavirus has affected it greatly because, again, so I don't know if we talked about this last time, but we kind of had a bit of not an identity issue, but we were doing things and we were trying to figure out who we were as a company and what our mission is. And initially, we created these brain-controlled robots, and we thought about selling that as a product in and of itself and trying to market it as an exercise tool or meditation therapy, something like that. And that dandy, but something about that just didn't feel all the way right. Okay. And so that's not the primary thing. It's not that we're completely giving that up. It's just... we just sat down. We're like, okay, who are we as an organization? What do we do? What do we do best? And what is our mission?
Yeah.
And so from there, we started shifting our objectives and focusing more on the science outreach side, and wanting to, because we were using this as a science outreach tool. We were having a lot of success with it. We're getting contracts with nonprofits to do their science outreach programs. So it was like, I don't know, the universe was saying,
do this.
Do this. And with that, again, because like everything else, like your podcasts, every business is organic and things change over time. And now what we're thinking is that we want to be the middleman between whoever is doing science outreach events and the end customer, or the people that are attending that event. So, for example, think about all the money that Google and Lockheed and Microsoft invest in science outreach programs. So, they'll have these big events, these big tech demos. Well, what we want to do is provide the service of, you just say, I want a demo and I want cool stuff. Okay. We'll come up with the cool stuff. And then...
So, you guys are the caterer.
We're the caterer. We're the STEM caterer, yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, man. We want a ton of people over here, but if I'm Google, that doesn't necessarily mean I make chicken sandwiches. Hey, Chick-fil-A will bring it over, all right. Or you want salad or you want sushi, all right. So that's actually, does anyone do that? Is that y'all's niche?
I don't think anyone does that, yeah.
Fuck yeah, man.
And not just that, because we were the caterer, or we're becoming the caterer for a bunch of nonprofits. And we're not doing regular science stuff. I mean, we're doing the craziest shit we can think of, driving robots with our brains.
Yeah.
We're currently in the process of fundraising now because we thought up a crazy idea. Have you ever seen Black Panther?
No, I need to. I haven't seen Black Panther, Thor, or Guardians of the Galaxies. I've seen Black Panther, Thor. Dude, I've seen the rest of the Marvel movies. I haven't seen Black Panther, Thor, Guardian of the... There's one more I haven't seen. I don't think I saw the Ant-Man. I don't know. I kind of took like all the Iron Mans as like, I took those as canon, and then like Endgame, Infinity War, and Endgame. So I took all the Iron Mans and the Captain Americas and then I saw Infinity War and Endgame. I don't know. I know everything is canon, but I don't know. To me, it was like, this isn't Endgame. This is Iron Man 23.
So the concept of the idea that we're fundraising for now, or starting to fundraise for, is in Black Panther, there's a scene where in Wakanda, they're very technologically advanced, right? And so it's his sister, Shuri. She's remote driving a car in Korea, but she has a hologram of the cars, like the steering wheel, what the driver would see, and everything. So the idea that we're starting to spin up is we wanted to recreate that using augmented reality. And so you get a HoloLens and you pipe in camera data from like an RC vehicle or a drone, and then you create a virtual cockpit with the video feed coming in, I would imagine close to real time. So that way you could, we could make like a virtual flight stick and throttle, and you could pitch the drone up, and the drone would actually pitch itself up in real life.
Now, do you know if that, is there any possible way you could already know if that's because like the newest fighter jet that's going to replace the F-22, the PCA, the penetrating counter-air, the 6th generation, that, like the B-21, the successor to the B-2 bomber, they're both going to be manned and have drone capabilities. So we're now getting to fighter. So the point of me saying that is, do you know if that's already like a classified system?
I don't know. I would imagine that there's something similar to it, but again, we want to recreate that as a science demo, as an outreach project.
Yeah. Okay.
And with that, because everybody's trying to get their kids into science and technology, and I'm not saying that the ways that they do are bad, but when you come up with kooky, wacky ideas that are on the level of, hey, you can drive this robot with your brain, let's talk about the science of how that works, or hey, we're going to create this virtual cockpit and you're going to fly a drone from this cockpit in real time. I think that there's just something valuable that if you're ever looking to do, because I know in my local area, there are a couple major science fairs that, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars get pumped into. So that kind of product at your fair would just step it up to the next level. Yeah. All of a sudden you would have kids, instead of seeing cool things, they could live it. Mm-hmm. And that would hopefully inspire them to pick up sciences, or in general, we want people to learn how to think outside of the box. So at first we were pushing for science, and I think our primary customer, or what we're marketing under is being the caterer for your science fair. Mm-hmm. There's a larger message of we're basically thinking outside of the box and coming up with these wacky solutions, and we want to teach that skill set to the next generation that's coming up.
Teach the skill set of thinking outside the box?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to follow. So what is it that you'll be and I don't mean to say this in any like condescending way. It's the furthest thing from it. I'm trying to follow from. So what is it that like you will be produced like physically, or like a service? Like what is like the thing that you're aiming for? Like going from, you had those headbands, the mind wave reader, the brain, the way to telepathically control robots. What is it that you are gonna create? Is that a valid question?
What we're trying to do is we are trying to go for the wow factor sorry, my dog is like all over
the place. Dude, I don't do shit. Tell her to come on, man. Yeah. I don't care.
Come here, boy. Come here. Yeah, there he is.
Dude, I put my dog down a month ago tomorrow.
Oh, man. I'm so sorry.
17 and a half. Fucking crushes me, man.
Yeah, man, that is terrible. Like I think because I know the day's coming. Yeah. But it's like, damn, you don't want to think about it.
Man, dude, we were putting it off for years because he wasn't sick. He was just old. But it finally, my parents are out of town, and it just like aging does, it just accelerated over the course of like a couple. It seemed like he aged 5 years in like 3 days. Couldn't stand up. He was having anxiety. It's probably dementia, and I was just like, and I gotta do it, dude. Holy shit. It destroyed me. I was crying like a dude. You would have thought I just watched like Titanic or something. I was crying at home like a little bit. No! But I mean, yeah, it's a part of life. And then I'll have like Delta Force guys on my podcast, and they're telling stories, and in my mind I'm like, I have nothing to bitch about. I'm like, I had to put down my dog, and they're talking about like having to shoot a kid that picked up a gun, and it's like, you gotta, it's like, don't pick it up, and it's like you watch a 7-year-old step on a landmine. Here I am like, yeah, I had to put my dog down. like what the fuck. But so have you thought of how are you going to tie what you're doing into being a caterer? Like I'm trying to, my limited brain power, I'm trying to follow this.
It's okay. As you and the audience can probably tell, we're creating this as we go.
Yeah, you're making this shit up. That's how I am, man. You got to make it up as you go.
So again, the idea is that we as a company, our primary mission is to come up with ways to make technology interesting to everybody, but to especially kids. So we're going to do that by blending the lines between reality and imagination. Mm-hmm. And so, basically we'll see something on a movie, get together and say, hey, can we recreate that? And then we'll try to recreate it. And then once we recreate it, we package it as primarily a service that, going through the process of how could we demo this to a group of 20 to 50 students and make it educational, exciting, and worth their time. And from there, once we create that demo, we would begin offering that to nonprofits, universities, schools, private companies, anybody who wants to do science demonstrations. Mm-hmm. And eventually in the future, we would like to be able to do that on a home scale. So if you're having a birthday party for your kid and you want them to learn something cool about tech, then they would be able to download our app, select from the list of workshops or programs that we have, and we would supply them with the technology, the people to run it, the expertise. And I'm thinking that's where the business model is. Like, that's where the growth.
Hell yeah. I might, God willing, this podcast takes off, I might need to employ you. Because, no, seriously, because I like doing it online. Like, even if I had the success and the money, I don't think I would want like a Joe Rogan studio, because to me, it's, even though something like his is very relaxed and informal, it's chill. It's not some like, welcome to the evening news. It's very like, what's up, man? There's like a dildo on the wall. Like, there's still, I try to look at it from like the guest perspective. And I look at it like, let's say you, or let's say me, we were invited on the Joe Rogan podcast. He lives in California. I live on the East Coast. I would have to fly out there. I'd have to get, let's just say it's all paid for. So let's just get that out. Let's just say that's not even the problem. Got to fly out there. Okay. All right. You got some jet lag, time zone fucked up. You got to get like a hotel. You got to stay there, not in your own bed. Nervous about it. You got to go in the next day. And then you're there, and you're basically there to like perform. And I still think he does it better than 99% of any advertising or talk show out there. But to me, it's like there's still so much that's like you're not in your comfort zone, versus when you can literally do the podcast in your bedroom and you may or may not even have pants on. Like, to me, and then when it's over, you close it and you're in your house. to me, that is like, that's the sweet spot. So even if this thing took off, also I just don't like meeting a lot of people. I'm introverted. I don't want to meet you in person. Get the fuck out of here, right? Yeah, you got to go through a metal detector. Bullshit, you're coming into a studio. But I like that, and I like to preserve that. But the problem is internet connections are always fucked up. Some people aren't technologically savvy, and I don't mean like me, where I'm not. I mean like, like 80-year-old, like don't understand anything. And as this goes on, like I want to upgrade it to like higher resolution and higher audio. And one thing I've always thought is like, it doesn't matter how much I can jack up my end. Let's say my podcast works out. Let's say I get a ballin' ass like office, top of the line everything. I can get Google Fiber. I can get satellite internet. None of that matters if the person I'm interacting with is on a Dell with dial-up, right? And they don't know what they're doing. So there's a point to me saying all this. One thing I've thought is like, man, if like I had the money, I would almost like to have someone like almost bring like a kit to whoever I'm interviewing. Like, hey, I'm talking to this person. I'd almost want someone to be able to like go there and like open it up so I don't have to worry about your shitty dial-up. Like and it would just be like a satellite, like 8K resolution, and like you still in your house, so you still get that comfort, but it would just be like, it'd almost be some like alien pod. It'd be like, and you could like interact with me, and then it's gone. And you're like, that costs a lot of money, and I am in no position to fund that. But let's just extrapolate a year. I'm 6 months and 10 days into this, and it's already gone leaps and bounds. What happens in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Does that make sense? There's really no purpose to me saying that, because it's not like I can just have you do that for me. But does that make any sense? Like, like a high-tech teleconference, and like, it's not like I'm gonna like ship this like pod to people and then like you just get to keep it. Like, no, fuck you. Like, that's why I want some like high quality thing. I want my cake and I want to eat it too. I want people to be in their home and have that comfort, but I don't want, like, sometimes it just comes through and it's like muffled. It sounds like it's going through two like radios, and like it's on like a 144p video, and it's just like, it really does. There is like purpose to it. It destroys the conversation when you're just sitting here like it's freezing and it destroys the flow of the conversation. It absolutely wrecks it. And that's the end of that rant. I got nothing else to say with that. I don't know where I was going with it, man.
You're good. But yeah, it's definitely one thing that we realized that we're interested in as an organization is providing exposure to technology to groups that don't necessarily get it. And so that's why we're starting out. Again, our roots are in outreach, but I could see it just growing past that exponentially. But again, as with all things, it being organic and us wanting to stay true to who we were, we realized that if we go more along the lines of trying to privatize science outreach for now, then that would allow us to eventually do things like you mentioned later, where we can provide technology into places that don't necessarily get it, and we can temporarily provide it. So say if you want a good resolution for your podcast videos, we come in, drop the pod off, let them do it, and then once they're done, they press the button and the pod just closes and shoots itself back up and flies home.
Shit, what if it was a drone?
Yeah.
What if it's self-delivery, man? Whew.
But and again, and too, like I'm gonna get off this interview and like think about it and be like, oh gosh, we should. What's our mission, guys? Like, are we outreach? Are we providing technology? But I think there's so many ways that the web can splay out.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we were saying you still identity. I think you're going about it the right way, because I think with all this stuff, when you're creating something, when you're not going in the cookie cutter path, and that's not, I don't mean to shit on it, like, because I'm not, Ben, people that have like a 9-to-5 job, like there's peace in that. There's, you know, you provide for your family. So I'm not trying to shit on that. But when you're trying to do something different, like you and I are doing, a podcast, goddamn Skynet, it's a lot of it, it's fuck it, do it live. You're just going as you go. Like, man, I got a piece of mail today from like Uline, like that plastic wrap. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, it was under my name. Dude, in 2016 was like my first like company I made, and it was Effit, E-F-F-I-T. Like, fuck it, Effit. Because I wanted to make my own like spin-off news called Effit News. And it was just fuck it. It was just, there's no politically correct, no. And I was like, I forgot about that, because it was that, and it went through like that to Photoshop to clothes to apparel to writing to comedy to video editing to now to here where I am now. And it's like, I completely forgot that even existed. But it was this real time, just you're doing this thing, and then you come to a crossroads and you're like, I think that this needs to go here. And it's changed names, it's been different companies, but I mean, ultimately it's still me, it's just Tommy, but it's gone from Effit to F2S2 to all these different things to now it's TPC, the podcast. But it's, a lot of it is yeah, you gotta, there's not always a definitive, like, what are you doing? And it's like, it's kind of a long story, but it's just, it's fuck, do it live, right? It's like those recurring like simulations when you're like try to get like a robot to like stand on 2 legs in some software, right? It's got to go through all these different iterations of like all these evolution until finally after 1,000 simulations you get this thing, this bipedal organism that can walk. And it's kind of how it is there's no definitive, like what you're doing right now. Like you might look back on this podcast in 2 years and be like, dude, remember when we were doing that? You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, man. No, I definitely feel the same way, because I mean, I've lived it. It's my whole life has been fuck, let's do it live.
Hero's journey. We've talked about this. Hero's journey, man. It's just been fuck it, do it live. And I think there's always a pressure to feel like you have to define yourself. You get it from society, you get it from parents, you get it from investors. We had a phone call with 2 investors who were trying to help us out and elevate us to the next level, and they were like, well, wait, what are you guys doing? And we're like, shit, I don't know. But that's it. And I get it. Like there's always a need for definition, especially in a lot, like when there's money or lives on the line or something like that. But at the same time, I think it's the murkiness and working through it that people really appreciate. And that's where the lessons come in. Like you said, you get to that seemingly perfect bipedal organism, but that literally took hundreds of thousands of tries and simulations. And it's not finished.
We always focus on that one big idea that somebody had, but you don't see the 7,000 failures that they had to go through to get to that one idea. So personally, I've learned to embrace it. And again, and with defining Cogito and what we do and our mission and our vision, I think part of it for now is just going to be, it's going to be a little murky. Or it'll seem like one thing and then it'll evolve into something completely different. A lesson that I keep close to my heart is with Google. When you think about it, back in the 90s when they were starting it up, it was just a search engine. Like they weren't thinking about owning the internet. But now, I mean, they have Google Maps, they do Fiverr, they have an AI robotics division, they do drones,
YouTube,
they do all this stuff. YouTube, but that was organic. It wasn't I guarantee you, when they were starting the company, they weren't thinking, oh yeah, we're going to map the entire planet. No, just it evolves over time organically. And people learn to follow it. So one thing that I'm really focused on as the captain of the ship is finding that initial thing that our company will be good at, where we're going to make our name, where we're going to create that brand loyalty. Because again, with Google, they were first, before anything else, they were a bomb-ass search engine. They were so good that, Google it means something.
Google it. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody says Yahoo it or Bing it. It's like, oh, I need to Google it.
Yeah.
And that comes with years. That comes with years of experience, years of high standards at one thing. And so I think for Cogito, what we're going to be good at is being that science caterer, that middleman. So when we come into your science fair, when we come into your birthday party, when we come into your professional worldwide demo, you know that you know exactly what you're going to get. It's going to be high quality. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be some shit that you only thought existed in a movie or doesn't sound like it should be real, but it is.
Yeah.
It's going to be some shit that makes you feel like Iron Man or, a superhero. And my vision is to do that for a while, create that brand loyalty, and then start expanding out, like getting into the business of providing technology to places that don't have access to it. Creating tools that can be used in hospitals for therapy. The meditation tool that we talked about, it's in the notebook, and when the time is right, like we're coming back around to it, and you're getting your cut because man of my word. I am a man of my word, dude. You're getting your cut.
I appreciate it. But yeah, you got to have these secondary and tertiary. Like, I have plans for this podcast way off in the future, like ripple effects that don't even have anything to do with podcasting.
Right, exactly.
But right now, I'm right here. And right now, it's like I got to get to 1,000 subscribers so I can get it monetized, so I can move out of my parents' house. Like, that is where I'm not, I legitimately do have plans for out to the rest of my life of like what I want this to be. Like early 90s Google, like looking at Google Maps. But then it's like, it's like Amazon. He can look out, Bezos is like, I'm going to put infrastructure and manufacturing into orbit in like the asteroid belt. But then it zooms back down and he's in his garage at a desk and he's losing his hair and it just says Amazon written on Sharpie on a piece of paper pinned to a desk. And it's like, know where you are, like know what you want to do, but also know where you are. And it's kind of where I am right now. It's like, I know where I am.
And then, like, for me, it's know where you are, know what you want to, know how big you want to be, but don't get locked into the details because, it could be again, I don't think Bezos saw when he was back losing his hair that he would be talking about putting manufacturing into orbit.
It's...
And that organic process, I think in this age that we live in, where everything is so instantaneous, everything happens at a split second, we've forgotten that you have to go through that long-term process to get anything of value. It's the rule of evolution. It's the law of nature. You got to put in your time.
Yeah.
So in 20 years, your podcast will probably have evolved into something much bigger and wilder than you could ever imagine.
Oh, yeah.
But you got to be willing to go through the 20 years to get to that level first. And you got to be willing to constantly put in the work and to keep climbing to the next thing. So that's personally where I am right now. Just trying to build this company up but it's crazy because this is something we started in January and now we're on a campaign and we're like, okay, let's get 350K and build some shit with HoloLenses and try to flip that into 3.5 mil.
Jesus, that's so bad. I think I've turned $5.68 total on the podcast.
Nice. But hey, it's $5 you didn't have before, and
goddamn if it's not the sweetest $5 I've ever made, but right now I'm making about 2 cents a day on this. But there is what you said, we expect everything here and now, and we've kind of forgotten that there's a long, arduous, there is a hero's journey to it, but not to at all compare you and I to them because we're not, but it's in the same vein. You start to understand the insanity of a Bezos, a Jobs, a Musk. You're like, oh, these are guys that live in that world perpetually. Sure, they don't have that existential creeping up, I gotta pay my student loans. there's a certain ease of like, oh, I have a personal trainer or a personal chef, like in a personal jet. But they live in that. None of them are just, I made it. Now I made it. They're always.
You never made
it. Steve. Okay, we got the home computer. All right, now I got an idea for something called an iPod. I'm gonna put 10,000 fucking songs in your pocket. Is that the end all be all? No. Next year I'm putting cell service in it. What? Surely that's the end. No. And a couple more years later, doing that, I'm gonna make a goddamn tablet. Like it's, it keeps going and going and going, and it just doesn't slow down. And I think they live in that world. I think you got to come to love the fire. Like they don't, because they don't settle there. Like look at Musk. Did Musk finish with like, I got electric cars? No, he's landing fucking 17-story tall rockets, just like they're lawn darts. Just dunk. And what is he trying to do? He's trying to go to Mars. Like I think so. Whereas it seems like everything happens here and now, I think that there are people in the world that are completely, like Musk says in the book Space Barons, in an interview for that book, he talks about, he's like, a lot of time we can get caught up in the idea that, oh, in 20 years we'll probably have the technology to do X, Y, and Z. And he was like, and for the vast majority of the population, you can just kind of say, yeah, wait 20 years, and sure enough, you can have an iPhone, like a touch screen. Imagine having an iPhone in the year 2000, in June 2000. Bullshit. But yeah, he was like, but for the few at the top that are pushing it, a Steve Jobs, a Musk, a Kelly Johnson of Skunkworks, like he was like, technology does not advance if you do not constantly push the envelope. He was like, right. You don't just, in 20 years we'll be able to land a rocket. He was like, no, in 20 years is how long it will go if you break your own heart every day. In 20 years, that incremental, it goes to go, oh, okay, right? And he said it recently on Joe Rogan. He was like, if you don't make stuff, there is no stuff. He was like, we can legislate money to coronavirus. He was like, but if no one's making anything, this thing will grind to a halt. And so I don't know where I'm going with all this, but I think there's a certain, and the only way you can get good at that is by starting. You got to learn to just, the water's never still. You just learn to surf on the insanity. And I think you got to start in your 20s and just, fuck it. I got student loans, my, parents are saying, how come you don't have a job and a wife? And it's like, I think you just got to jump into the fire. Because if you learn a baptism by fire, if you just learn through this like brutal iteration at the bipedal organism again and again and again and again, you get to a point where like you start to get good at it. And if you stick with it, that's when you turn into a Musk or a Bezos. But like you can't learn that shit in school. There's no class for how to be Bezos. Any school, if you can teach it effectively, then I don't think it's like the cutting edge of experience. I like any like pickup doctor, you can read every book in the world, but until you go to a bar and just start getting turned down by girls, like that's it's a brutal trial and error, and then finally you get to a point where you can ask a girl out and it works, right? But you can't learn it in a book, man.
No, and like you said, it's willing to go through that process, those processes, that constant iteration, and you learn what works and what doesn't work over time. Like I know with Cogito, with the brain robots, like what you see now is about iteration 55, because we tried something, it didn't work. We tried something else that kind of worked a little bit better, but then it had this problem, and it's just a constant process. Same with girls. Like I had that issue for a while, but then over time I learned what aspects of me should I amplify to make myself attractive. And then all of a sudden I had I'm married now, but so it obviously worked. But
don't get yourself in hot water. Don't say anything that's going to get you in hot water. You got married. End story.
But there was a while where it was girls after when I figured out the things that worked, it was like, okay, yeah, whatever. It's not difficult.
It's learning to ride
that
a
part of
bike,
it wasn't difficult.
Yeah.
But I had to go through that process of years and years of, well, wait, that didn't work because of blah. So I think the caveat to being willing to go through those cycles is you have to actually sit down and ask those hard questions. Like, you have to ask, okay, well, this didn't work. Why didn't it work? What did I do wrong? What could I improve upon? And from there, as long as you're asking yourself that question or those questions, and you're getting decent answers and you're implementing those answers into your next iteration, then you'll get somewhere. It may not be where you thought you were originally going, but chances are it'll probably be better, and you would have never seen it coming. So that's the way I like to look at it.
That's a very important aspect is even this podcast. Like, I never thought I would do a podcast, and then even within that arena, it still unfolds in ways that I couldn't foresee. Like, I have friends that will come on, like, okay, I know I'm gonna have Aaron on again, but then shit happens where I have on a guy that helped push the death penalty for John Wayne Gacy, or I have on Mike fucking Durant, Black Hawk Down guy, and it's like it unfolds in a way you didn't know would happen, but there is something you can predict. And I don't mean to get all woo-woo, new agey, but I've found that if you can focus on the feeling, I don't have a girlfriend, I don't have a social life, I know what it's like to be in love. I know what that, not even just that dopamine high puppy love, even just that slower, much more calm, concrete, friend, right? That deep partner feeling. I don't know what the hell my next girlfriend will look like, but I know what that feeling is. And it's the same thing. I knew I wanted to I know I love, we've talked about this, I know I love the grind. Sometimes the grind is OChem flashcards. Fast forward 8 years and it's uploading podcasts and editing and learning how to drop links on different forums and then tracking it through YouTube Studio, seeing which methods are working and writing it down like a fucking psychopath. Okay, I got it, I'm getting the equation. But it's definitely a feeling that the feeling is always correct. Whatever that feeling is of being your own boss, of doing what you like, what form it takes. It's almost like genotype and is it phenotype? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, it's like for the most part we all have the same genetic code, but it depends on where you are on Earth. What part of it comes out? Is it right. Are you in the sub-Saharan? Are you blacker than black, or are you like me? You're from you're wherever I evolved was clearly in the north, because look at me, it's I glow, and but you don't know what it is that's gonna come. I don't know who the next big guest is, but I know the feeling of it. I know the feeling of getting an email back, and when Mike Durant said, yeah, sure, I'd love to do it, I was like, holy fuck. I email people never really expecting a response. So I don't know what the next one is. Does that make sense? You got to cut me off, man, because you know how I talk, dude. I interrupt. You got to beat me back with a stick.
I'm all about listening, man, and I think what makes these podcasts so valuable is just it's the organic conversation. It's not just you're not just asking me, well, what do you do? Tell me about that.
Hey, Aaron, you went to med school. Wow, I hate blood. Beer brought to you by Dodge. Oh, Jesus God. Put a knife in my throat, dude.
And that's one thing that is especially true in our generation, and I think will continue to amplify out as generations come on, is that there is a desire for authenticity. And so if you look at the brands that are most successful with millennials, they're brands that are perceived as authentic. It's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to make us feel like it's real and you really care and that you're a real person. And because I get it, it's that human connection. So if you tap into that, you've created something deeper. You've created this loyalty that's going to last forever and ever. So now we're to the point where if I say, hey, can I come on your podcast? Because we've talked, there's that loyalty there.
Yeah.
or if you ever ask me, hey, can you come on? I'm like, yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing that I think any good venture, be it a podcast, a business, a nonprofit, that's what you need to create, especially in this day and age where everybody is craving authenticity because we're seeing, everything being digital, it's easy to fake. And so because everything is so easy to fake and everything is prominently faked now, we're craving something real as a society.
Yeah, it's like, that's a very good point. It's Post Malone. I love him as an artist. Post Malone's tattoos are the worst thing in the world. But
they're fucking terrible.
But I mean, but the thing is they're iconic. And the thing is he likes them. They look horrible. In my opinion, though, he is himself. And like, God damn it, if you can't like listen to his music and watch him, and you're like, man, like, I don't get it, but I'm like, fucking hell, I respect it. It's him in like a velvet glistening purple suit with like pink cowboy hats on, with always tired. He just got a skull this big tattooed on his scalp, like smoking a cigarette with long, greasy, wiry hair. And he's got an AR-15 in one hand and like a chrome Bugatti behind him. But if it's like, God damn it, if that isn't like, that's you, like that is you. And like, true, I like him more because of that. I like him because I hate how he looks and he doesn't give a fuck. Like, I respect that. And like, same thing with like YouTube thumbnails, man. YouTube thumbnails and channels. When I was first getting this podcast going, I was looking up, I was like, what are successful channels? And there's like an equation to it. It's like your thumbnail, like you always got to look surprised. Like, you got to have a red arrow with a red circle. You got to have the emoji, and then like, and then like you always got to put it caps in you got to have one word in capital letters. And then you always got to do this, and you got to put like a white outline around the person. And I remember right from the get-go, I was like, I'm never going to fucking do that as just like a point of pride. Because as successful as it could be, there are so many channels on YouTube. If you look at a thumbnail, but you don't look at what channel it is, it could be any one of 10, like whatever it is. And you're like, oh, you're a dime a dozen. So point of me saying it is like, it's slower, but being authentic is much, it's a relationship based off of like one night, of alcohol, coke, and sex versus like a slow, methodical, maybe not some sexy or storybook romance, but just like a legitimate, slow foundation. Those are the people that are married for 80 years, right? And I think it's the same thing. It's just a slow, be it podcast or outreach or slow, but be yourself. Right. You're not going to get it overnight, but it builds up. God damn it, if it's not built on a foundation of titanium, right?
Right. And so one thing we were talking about, my wife and I, yesterday, was the creation of wealth, and that. For me, that's something that I've always thought about. Not necessarily that I'm like, give me all the money in the world, but I come from, I'm obviously Black, and in Black communities, wealth doesn't really exist. And so that's something that I would like to play my part in creating over time, is that intergenerational wealth, so that way my great grandkids could be taken care of.
Yeah.
But in that, I've noticed that in a lot of cases where the money comes fast, so say athletes, a lot of celebrities, singers, because they didn't build it over time, and if you like, money that comes fast tends to go fast, from what I've noticed. Yeah. So when you were talking about the relationship, and yes, it takes longer. If you look at the ways that people really build wealth, it's through long-term investing, through real estate, like holding property for 30, 40 years.
Boring shit,
yeah. With money, especially, like you want your financial advisor to be the most boring person ever, because that's the person that's going to keep you paid for the next 50 years. Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, have one or two exciting things, but for the most part, like, be a boring ass person when it comes to money.
Yeah.
And so like that, again, but a lot of people aren't looking for that long-term, that slow build that's going to stay for hundreds of years. They want it fast. They want it now. They don't really care about tomorrow. And it's like, no, that's not the way you should look when you're doing anything. So when, again, if you're talking about a business venture, if you're talking about a personal relationship, if you're talking about finances, like time and time again, the story has always been slow and steady wins the race. So build it up over time and it'll last an eternity. Like think about the pyramids. It took them a really fucking long time to build those.
Yeah.
And those aren't going anywhere. Like they're still here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Bezos's thing. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Right.
It's or think about building like a skyscraper slowly. Empire State Building is made out of limestone. It went down, they put up the girders, the steel girders, but then it was just, you literally laid one block, put down the mortar, laid the next block. It's like building Legos. God damn if it's not slow, but when you have 10,000 interlocked pieces all clipped on correctly, you can throw a brick at it. Maybe not Legos, but you get what I'm saying, right? It's
right, yeah.
It's very slow, you want those roots. But God, is it tedious and heartbreaking when you're doing it.
That's why a lot of people don't do it. Like, there's a reason why we value people that do it.
Yeah.
It's because it's not a common trait.
Yeah.
Like, it's, we talk about valuing innovation and vision and all those things, but the reason why those people stand out so much, those Musks, those Steve Jobs, those Bill Gates, is because they're willing to do it, and the majority of the population just simply is not. Like, people aren't willing to say, like, okay, I'm going to build this up over 20 years. I'm going to make 2 cents off of this podcast for the next 20 years if it means I make 20 million.
Yeah. In 1 year. It blows up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a process, and that's something as I walk through my personal journey, I have to remind myself of constantly as I walk through, again, trying to build this company up and what we're doing. Like, that's what I have to tell myself and my guys constantly. It's like, no, we're in this for the long haul. Like, I'm not trying to blow up quickly. I'm not trying to be a one-hit wonder. Like,
yeah.
Come on the radio, be on the radio for like 3 months straight, and then fall into obscurity. Like, no, I want something like GE? Still around?
I was about to say GE. Yeah.
Well,
boring
Edison,
shit.
right?
Yeah, boring shit. Like, I think it was Shaq talking about when he first made money, and he spent like more than his paycheck. He made his signing bonus was like $1 million. He spent like 1.6 million in the first day, and realized he was instantly in debt. And so he was like basically interviewing advisors. And the first guy was like, we can buy this, we can buy that, we can jack up your wealth. And he was like, no. And he like went through a couple, and he finally got to the third one. He goes, there's this sweet little Jewish man. And he was so boring. He was like, you're like, I've got like a 40-year, like real estate plan for you, some index stocks where you look at like 2% a year, very slow. And the guy's like, what'd you say to him? And Shaq goes, shalom. And he's I'm still with him. But that's what it is that I wanted to be like very fast for like several years, because I think I was so sick of, after I had done the whole med school thing, 4 years, like I wanted the opposite of that. I wanted like a quick flash in the pan. And through like different company iterations, I would go ham for like 2 months, and then I'd burn out and it wouldn't work, so I'd say fuck it, and I'd go to the next thing. And I did that several times. Then finally I realized, I was like, I'm looking back now, and it's been 4 years since I moved home, and I'm like, if I had just stuck with one thing, like, the time passed anyway. And so this was last December when I was thinking about this, and I was like, I'm just going to start a podcast, and it's going to be very, very, like, I'm hoping it blows up in one day. Who doesn't wish for that? But I was like, I'm just going to slowly and methodically do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so if 3 years pass, I can at least go, well, I've got 3 years of progress on this now. Because the time is one of two things is going to happen. I'll be dead from whatever, an accident, natural, who knows? I don't know, shit happens. Or the time will pass and I'll still be alive. So
Right.
I'd rather, and now here I am 6 months later, this is episode 121, 438 subscribers, almost at 40,000 views. And I'm like, that is, holy shit, like you couldn't crank that out in 2 weeks. It's very slow. I hope another 2 years pass and it's just very slow, methodical, and just, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like you can't have a normal 29-year-old life and do this. All my friends that are married with kids or still get hammered every weekend with each other, and now they got money because they got jobs. That's cool. And I am jealous of that. And sometimes I wish I went that path. But you can't do that and also do the hero's journey, the I'm going to create my own dream. You can do this, but dude, everything else is probably going to fall away, right? You gotta go left or right. You can't try to have one foot on both because you'll fuck up all of it.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. Like my close friends from college, you know, one of my friends is, great job. He has a wife and kid, and his life is definitely really stable. And part of me, like you, I'm like, oh man, like what does that feel like? Yeah. But at the same time, it's I chose the path that I chose, and hopefully it will work out. I know I'm going to learn something by the end of the day, and either way, I'm going to be dead soon. So hopefully a long time. But
but I mean, I've thought about that. I'm like, man, imagine just having like a wife, like a steady 9 to 5, a decent salary, be able to buy any Xbox game I want. All my friends in Atlanta still get drunk every weekend, like it's college or high school, maybe a little less. And I'm like, man, that looks like so tempting. Like it's comfortable. But I know if I went and did it, I think I would like it for a couple months, maybe even a year. But eventually, and I think this is just like the inner psychopath that I know you also have, so I can talk to you about this. It's like the Jumanji drums. I know, like, I can only have that cookie cutter thing for so long before it would be like the dum 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 dum, where it'd be like, what if you built this thing? What if you created a corporation? What if you went off to try to become a billionaire and change the world? Some people really like those conversations when they're drunk, and that's it. That's the shit that eats at me every day. I'm like, what if? Even on the worst days, I wake up the next morning, I'm like, what if I just tried one more time? Like, what if? And like Steve Jobs said it, man. He said it is often only those that are crazy enough to think they can change the world who end up changing the world. Like, there's a certain insanity. And I think it's like Jumanji. Like, I have to finish. Because if I went and got a normal job, I think I would like it for a while. I think I would enjoy the comfort. I think I would enjoy not living with my parents at almost 30. But eventually, like Jumanji, I would hear the rumble in the distance of my mind. And I know I would end up abandoning that to come back. So why don't I just do it? Why don't I just suck the dick and do it now? Do the deed, Why don't I just get it done, man?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, too, they'll go through and they'll get stable, they'll get comfortable, but you notice that there is a lot of unrest or restlessness, especially in this age when you can see all the awesomeness. You go on Instagram and everybody's like hiking in the Himalayas.
Look at my Leah. I just had sex on top of a whale. Like, oh, what?
Yeah, and so generationally speaking, we have an amplified sense of FOMO that I think people have always had, because the phrase FOMO, fear of missing out.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, I have a terminal case, yeah.
It's like it's been called different things over time, like keeping up with the Joneses.
Grass
and
is
all
always
that,
greener.
but
Yeah,
it's the same concept. Like
it's not real.
It's something that but now when you look on Instagram and you see everybody's like successful cars, or I'm eating at a 5-star restaurant in London.
Yeah, we're smiling, and here we are on our morning walk, and there you are laying there hungover, unshaven, with your hand on your balls, and you're like, what am I doing with my life? But everything's curated, man.
Yeah.
You are seeing a little snapshot. When you look at a picture from whatever, 1905, you see one picture. But if you could go through that aperture and walk into that world, that's just one thing where everyone stood still for a second and then went back to their life. And there's a whole thing going on right now. Like, even this podcast, you can tune in and you can watch this right here, and it's funny and we're laughing, and like, you don't see all like the editing and the producing and the uploading it and trying to market it online and then finding another guest and getting turned down, and then meanwhile trying to keep your sanity because you live at home and the gym's still closed and all your friends are dating, and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? But it's curated. You're seeing this. You're seeing on Instagram, you're seeing one. Here we are with our Labrador poodle in our brand new home, and it's click, and then everyone drops the pose, and they're still bickering about whatever. There's still the Wi-Fi shit out, and the fucking I gotta be here because Comcast said they'd be here between 2 and 7, and the kid's crying, and my wife's flirting with her ex, and it's just, everyone has this shit. It's just curated. So I'd rather, if the grass is always going to be greener on the other side, I'd at least rather be competing against myself to be like, how can I make my life? Because you're right. If you had all that, how long until you're just laying awake at night like, I'm Dr. Shepard. Man, what if I built fucking telepathic robots for like inner city outreach? What if? Dude, goddamn, if that's not going to eat at you like like a mild acid, not even a bad one, just...
Oh, it did. Because I remember, I don't know if we talked about this, but I was in class, like in med school. I was watching them land on a fucking comet.
Yeah, you talked about this in the first one.
And I'm like, I could be doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I could have built that. I could have worked on it. I could be, if they let me, I'd fly the damn thing.
Yeah. I remember in your first episode, you were like, man, if I just shut the fuck up, I could have just got the doctor's salary and just gone my way. If I just shut the fuck up.
Just sat down, shut the fuck up, not said anything, but...
Smile, get the white coat, smile, got the kid, got the...
Yeah, but no, honestly though, it's a snapshot, and what I realize now when I look at these people like your Musks and your Bezos, and you see brief mentions of the struggle that they went through, but it's again, you're only seeing a snapshot. You're not seeing the whole picture. It's like, Musk was showering in a gym for years before Zip 2 blew up.
Yeah.
And even recently, so it was Thanksgiving, I think, and I saw one of my cousins who I hadn't seen in years. And she knew, because she knew that I had changed career paths, and she was like, yeah, everything just seemed to happen so fast. Like, you changed, and all of a sudden now, like, you're working with NASA and you're doing all this cool stuff. Like, wow, it just happened so fast. And I was like, no.
You're like, what? What?
No, it looks fast, but that shit sucked.
Yeah.
It was long and painful, and it is still long and painful, but I'm still going through this.
Yeah.
But again, we're only seeing snapshots, and so we part of that is, I think, because everything is digital now, because the internet exists, you're only getting the snapshots or the Wikipedia, the 2-paragraph summary of a person's life. You don't see the struggle and the grind until you actually hear them talk about it and read their book or something like that. So I try to keep that in mind as I go on as well, because it's like, well, yeah, it looks like this person became really successful really quickly, but no, it was years. You're seeing them now at 30,000 or 300,000 followers, but that was built over a 6-7 year period.
Yeah.
So, and even now, I'm starting to have those experiences where, I remember when I first started out, just creating my online persona before the robots, when it was just like, hey, I really like space and technology, and back when I only had like 20 followers or whatever, and I remember wishing, like, man, I wish these people that were in my sphere, like those influencers in my niche, however you pronounce it.
I don't know how to say it.
No, I don't know words either.
Nika.
Nietzsche.
Wait, Nietzsche. Oh, the philosopher. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Nietzsche. I hated his philosophy.
Yeah. What a depressing asshole.
Oh, he was. Nihilism sucks. Like, yeah, oh my God. I read his book. I was like, this is fucking depressing.
It's fucking brutal. There's no. Hold that thought real quick. I really gotta piss.
Yeah. I've probably got about a good 20, 30 minutes left.
Yeah. Just don't let me hold you hostage.
Yeah, dude, and you're just gonna invite me on anyways next time. So.
Yeah. There's no. Yeah, it's not like this is your one time. You gotta get it all out now, motherfucker. This is your one appearance on Conan. Like,
say it all now.
Yeah, say it. Get it out.
Yeah.
But, sorry, you're talking about spheres of influence, followers.
Right, and so there was somebody who I followed who like worked with Bill Nye, like graduated from MIT. Like she's like the awesome, and. It's so funny because I remember she popped up on Reddit and she did an AMA, and I was like, hey, I'm trying to be like you. What can I do? And so she gave me some advice, and this was probably 3-4 years ago. Well, fast forward to now, and I'm by no means like anybody important, but
yeah, you are.
She followed me. She knows who I am. She's like recommending me for stuff where like people are reaching, like somebody from NASA reached out to me about something. They're like, oh yeah, we got your name from so and so, and I was like,
Fuck yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I think I haven't done it yet just because I've been a little busy, but I want to screenshot that Reddit conversation and just say, like, that was me.
Save it. Yeah, man. It's what I found is what you were saying about like a cousin seeing you or something. Like, oh, you changed career paths. I've had people, like, I remember I sent one friend like the Mike Durant conversation, episode 95 for anyone listening, and and someone was like, like, I don't mean this in like any bad way because I know they didn't mean anything by it, but me being a little butthurt, fragile ego bitch, I took it the wrong way. But they're like, man, like, that's so cool, man, like it, like you're so lucky you've just stumbled into this podcast thing because you're like so naturally killing it. And, like, I definitely understood, like, the kindness in what they're saying. Like, dude, this is your thing. Like, you're hitting your stride. But, like, part of me, like, and I didn't say anything in response, but part of me was just, like, so lucky I stumbled. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, but then I realized, I was like, they can't see. They can't possibly know everything behind it. Because to them, they just saw episode 1 and they talked to me 6 months later and, hey, look at this. They didn't see in between. But then I realized, I was thinking, like, man, the time has just passed like that. And so I was like, you're talking about with, like, you see like a Bezos or a Musk and like you briefly see like a little blip of them in the past and it's like their long grind. And then it comes right back to how awesome it is now. And they're driving in a $5 million car with a private 747. But so I started thinking, I was like, what if you could use that to your advantage? What if you could use that delusion that we use when we look at someone like LeBron or Post Malone? We're like, oh, they made it. And it's like, but you didn't see the grind. Well, because here we are. Our last episode was, it felt like it was a lot sooner. Our last episode was March 28th. I saw it on Skype beforehand. I was like, I thought that was the first one. I was like, that can't be it. And I scrolled up. The first one was like early February.
Oh, damn.
The last one was March 28th, dude. It was almost 3 months ago.
Whew.
So, yeah. So, you take that. Went like that. And now when is 3 months from now? July, August, September? That seems forever away. And it's going to grind slowly every day. Just more iterations of whatever it is that we're doing. But, so I started thinking, what if you could use that delusion to your own advantage? What if you could, instead of looking at Bezos and be like, he had that grind and no one talks about it, and even I only get a little blip into it. I don't see the day in, the day out, the self-doubting. Is this gonna work? What am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
So what if you could use that to your own advantage and apply it to yourself? Almost forget your own grind. And that's what I try to do now, where whenever I start to get stuck in the moment, which contrary to what most people, you gotta stay present. I've been thinking more and more with this podcast where I know it's a long grind. I still meditate, but I try not to get stuck in the moment. I almost try to just tell myself, like, just keep going. Don't look down. Like, just keep going. And I'll blink and like, oh, I'm at episode 30. And I'll blink, I'm at episode 100. And I'm almost trying to use that to my own advantage. Like, don't forget how valuable that and how much effort you've put into this, but at the same time, like, just keep going and going and going, because you can start to lie to yourself. And just like that, 6 months, 121 episodes, I can now lie to myself, and I'm like, I'm gonna blink my eyes and another 6 months are gonna go by. The reality is those are going to drag by, but once I'm there, sure enough, you and I are gonna do a podcast in December of this year. It'll be 1 year. We'll do more between then, don't worry. But we'll be there and we'll blink and be like, hey, Aaron, remember that conversation in June? And it'll be like, that was June? But it goes by like that. And so just do what you can now. Do a little bit every day and just let them stack up. Just let them stack up. Just like you're throwing a penny every day. Just fast forward a million years. Just let it, like, does that make sense? I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just ranting.
Yeah. No, dude, I totally get it. It's two things that reminded me of. One, so in case the audience doesn't know, I think you know, but I'm actually an ex cross-country and track runner on the collegiate level. And so, like, for fun, I would run really long distances, like, 10, 12, 13 miles. And it's the same thing where, it's you're running 10 miles. Like, it takes forever, but over the years, I've learned to just disconnect my brain from my sense of time. So, like, I'm present in that my body is still going, and I'm making sure to keep my pace up and all that. But I just let my mind, like, half of my mind almost disconnects and then wonders, and I'm thinking about life and all this other stuff, and then I come around to it and I'm right at the end of the run and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that wasn't bad. Yeah. And so when people ask me what it's like, or like, how do you learn how to do it? I'm like, well, you just do it. You
just got to do it again. Yeah. You can start to learn to disconnect. Yeah.
Yeah. You just learn to, it's like you split, it's like you partition your brain.
Yeah.
Half of your brain is focused on, okay, let me keep this rolling. Let me keep my body going. Let me keep my pace up. And the other half of your brain is like screwing with your sense of time, so that way you don't feel miserable as you run.
Yeah. It's a weird duality, because like what we're doing with I always can't pronounce, like cogito.
Yeah. I need to tell people how. Yeah. And actually, that's a good conversation starter, which is why I let it be ambiguous, because people are like, how do you pronounce it? And then you can talk about it. And it's like, oh, that's
I'm
cool.
there. Yeah. Cogito with TPC, it's a weird duality, because half of it requires being very intensely in the moment and be like, don't worry about the long, what can you do today? And then it's super contradictory. You then also just got to completely forget about the moment. Like you're saying, you got to keep your pace up, and at the same time just completely forget you're even running. So it's like, I got to be here. I sleep well, exercise, meditate, read audiobook or listen to audiobooks, just constantly just like be here. Aaron's coming on, gotta be here. Get my water, turn the AC down. You gotta be here. You gotta be on the edge of your seat. Like, don't lay back, don't fall asleep. Just get here and be popping and let a conversation just off the rails. And at the same time, you've got to completely just partition yourself. Just be like, it's June. Oh my God, it's June. I've only made $5 off this. But don't think about it. Just partition it. It's Christmas. Man, now I'm at whatever. I've done this many. It's the weirdest. I was thinking, doesn't your brain like unconsciously like partition like childhood trauma? I mean, like, I don't mean trauma like, oh, my best friend doesn't like me. I mean like true, like, being molested, being beaten. There's almost like, I'm realizing as you're saying that, I'm like, we're just like openly talking about like, oh yeah, no, this is all so traumatic. We're just like partition yourself from like the brutal reality of like, you could have a normal job and a normal paycheck, you dumb fuck. Like, why are you doing this? And it's like, we're just partitioning our brains. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe there's.
Yeah, and two, it's again that mechanism. If you want to get all scientific, that ability to partition evolved. Like it was useful for something, which is why we still have it.
Okay.
And so it's almost like a brain hacking where you're saying you're just willingly doing it instead of letting a traumatic experience force it. Yeah. Although you can look at what we do as traumatic in a sense, but you can. And I am by no means an expert at this. Like, some people are like, yeah, do these mental hacks and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I
don't give a fuck.
I don't know. But these are things that I've really just learned. And I see examples of this time and time again in my life. So there's when I run, when I scuba, it's the same thing. I'm 100 feet underwater. I could fucking die. Like, there's a shark right there. It could eat me. But
fuck that.
And part of me is like, okay, I'm looking at the compass to see where I am. I'm looking at my timer to see how much time I have left. I'm looking at my air. I'm trying to look for my buddy. I'm trying to make sure that I don't get eaten by that shark that's over there. But at the same time, like, the other half of my mind is like, I'm just floating and it's blissful.
Yeah.
And you're only under for 30 minutes, but it feels like 3 hours because you're just, you don't even care. You're just there and you're looking at nature and it's cool. Another example in my life is like, okay, I do a lot of like salsa and Latin dancing. And it's the same thing where it's highly technical, but then it's so artistic at the same time. Like I'm dancing with somebody. I have to think about what timing I'm on. I have to think about what timing they're on. I have to realize where we are in space. I have to try to plan out my next couple of moves so that way I don't get repetitive. But at the same time, like half of my brain is like working and doing all the technical stuff. And then the other half of my brain is just like, there's just a flow and a feel and it's like temporal distortion. And I don't know how long it's been and I don't care. Like, it's like that partitions. It's like I don't know if it's a partition as much as if it's my father-in-law actually explained it as an arcing where your left brain and your right brain are passing information to and from each other. Like they're working independently, but then sharing a data link. So that way you can get stuff done. I don't know.
It makes me think of Aldous Huxley in The Doors of Perception. He takes like a bunch of mescaline and he's talking about, he calls it like the mind at large, like capitalized M at large. And he was like, when you take psychedelics, he was like, you're open to this whole world that is around you at all times and you see it all. And he's like, but I think we evolved to shut a lot of it out because like you can't get shit done when you're, and I've thought about that with meditation. Like when I meditate, it's like 30 minutes where I'll like really slow down and like I can like see truly, like I can almost visit the future and like what it feels like when the podcast works. And I used to do it when I was pre-med. I would be like, I could imagine how great it would feel when I got into med school, and I could, and like I can almost see the podcast working, and I can see my own apartment, and I'm like, oh, how awesome is it going to be when it fucking worked, and I did it. And now, instead of being jealous of people with a 9-to-5, now I can have a comfortable living, but then I just have a fucking podcast. I don't have to go to a cubicle. Like and I'm like, how awesome is that going to be? That's going to be cooler than any Lamborghini. If I'm just like, yeah, dude, I just talk with friends for a paycheck, like, come at me, like, you know. But when I get into that like meditative state and I can feel that, you can also feel everything. I'm also very aware that I'm like a sentient animal made out of like protein on a ball flying around a nuclear fusion furnace in an infinite galaxy, and no one really knows why or how we're here or what consciousness is, and it's all just, and it's like you can't have all of that at all times, right? You gotta, you know, if you're fighting in a battle, you gotta just acquire the next target. You can't be thinking about, you know, if you're if you're at the Battle of the Bulge or something, you can't be worrying about like, okay, we're taking down Hitler, but how are we gonna take that next hill at Iwo Jima? Like, no, you gotta be here. And what I've found with meditation is like, yeah, there's like a partitioning. It's part of you is like, you see it all, but then you almost have to just shut it down, right? You just gotta, I don't know how to explain it. It's like,
it's
very hard to explain. I don't know.
I have similar things when it comes to space flight. Like, it's like you can see the entire planet. Like
the overview effect.
Yeah, you can see it, but then you zoom out for a second just to get the big view,
and
you zoom out, say, okay, I know I generated there, and then you zoom back in and say, okay, how do I get there? And so that's the way I kind of feel about it. And on the side note, you were talking about, seeing your podcast, like seeing yourself, like your podcast being successful, and being able to say, yeah, just talk to people for a living, and it's a comfortable living in an apartment and all that. I think personally, those kind of premonitions for me are ironically spaceflight related. Like, I can see certain things and feel it and hear it, and I can smell how bad the spacesuit smells. I definitely get it, but for me, what I like to do is I like to let my mind wander and again go out. Like, I'm here right now in South Carolina, but I like to expand my view out, and all of a sudden I'm in orbit. And then I look, and I'm like, okay, well, while I'm up, I look and say, okay, these are the paths that I want to take to get to this point, and then I zoom back down and say, all right, like the big plan has been designed. Like, now let's work on the little steps that actually get you there.
Yeah, you zoom out and set the waypoint on the GPS.
Yep.
And then you come back down, and it's like, even though your waypoint is 1,800 miles away, it starts with like, turn left on Cedar Shoals Drive, and you're like, okay. In half a mile, turn right. You're like, okay. But like, you kind of got to zoom out and see it for the. You kind of have to see the macro in order for the micro to not be a torturing hell.
Right. And you have to, but at the same time, like and again, it's the duality. It's you have to see the macro, but you have to understand the micro, because the micro gets you to the macro.
Yeah. The bricks build the skyscraper. Yeah.
Yeah. The Legos, everything. And side note, with duality, like, I have an interesting take on it, because if you're familiar with quantum physics, the whole premise of it was they were arguing whether or not light was a particle or a wave.
Yeah, the observer effect.
Yeah, and it was like, and it's both. It just depends on how you look at it. So everything is built on duality.
Yeah.
In this universe, just about. So, it is. So it's not surprising that there are a lot of aspects to life that seem contradictory, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
You got to know the macro. You have to see the macro and see the micro and be able to connect the two. And I think the problem is that we as people tend to either focus on one or the other, where we only see the macro and we're not practical, so we can't get to it, or we only see the micro, so we never can, like, we're always in our own little fence or bubble, and we don't see the world around us. So I think being able to switch between the two, and that's something to arc it back over to the beginning of the conversation with the work that my company does, where we're looking at these big, awesome things, and then we're going through the technical details of how to make those things reality. Like, we're seeing the macro, building the micro up to it. Like, even for me, that's what makes my company. Like, that's where my soul is in it. It's an exercise in switching between the scopes, like zooming out and zooming back in. It's saying, oh, that's cool, let's do it, and then working out the problems to get there.
Yeah.
And so even if my company doesn't make a lot of money, it's therapeutic for me. It's training for me. It's something that I want to do, and I'm working on doing because I value that skill set. So
yeah.
Maybe I don't really care about helping kids. This is just I'm just trying to get people to pay me to do my own therapy.
Yeah. Hey man, Alan Watts said, the philosopher who died 73. I know you got to go and get with 8 more minutes.
Yeah, we can go. Yeah, we can go 8. That's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah, of course.
All right, yeah. Yeah, well, it's 5:02, so I realize that people that are listening and they're not here live, they just hear the random. I'm like, can you go 13 more minutes? They're like, that's a weird fucking can you go? Yeah, but so that's what Alan Watts said. He was like the goal in life, like the primary goal, is to get paid for play, but play it off as work.
Exactly.
So do the thing you want to do, get money for it, and then let other people think that it's work. Because if you're just telling everyone, I play for a living, people are gonna get fucking bitter at you. So you got to kind of keep a. Maybe Musk always tries to look tired just so people aren't like, this asshole's building robots and rockets and he's just having a bomb worth $30 billion and he's just, happy as a clam. Maybe you gotta have like a tough face. But like, yeah, the most important thing you can do in life is get paid for play. To me, it's alchemy. To me, it's like the true alchemy. If you can find a way to not have to do something you don't want to do, and I don't mean that in some blissful way. It doesn't matter who you are, there's always gonna be shit you don't want to do. You got to get up early, you're having an argument with whoever, you got to do this and that. Those are never going to go away. But in terms of like, if you can get to a point where you can put food on the table and gas in your car and pick up your prescription meds and turn on the lights and have a place to sleep, and you do that all because you get reimbursed or you get paid for just having fun. Mm-hmm. To me, as we are examples of getting into medical school, going to medical school, and then being like, there's something better. To me, that is, I've said, turning what you like into money, to me, is infinitely harder than getting into medical school. It's easier to be a doctor, and it's not easier to be a doctor. I think it's easier because to me, it's like, that is the ultimate. If it was easy, everyone would do it. That is like the alchemical gold that can be achieved. If you can just do like stand-up comedians, to me, are like a perfect example. Like they get paid, and they'll all talk about it too. Like they all say it. They'll be like, yeah, the biggest moment for me was when I started getting paid for telling jokes. And I could quit my Walmart job, and all of a sudden it doesn't matter if you have the shittiest apartment and the tiniest bed. If you can do that by doing what you like, you're the richest man in the world. There's nothing you want. That is what drives me. Is I don't look at it as like when the podcast gets me a mansion. I'm like, dude, if I could rent out like one bed from my podcast, I'm like, to me that is right. That is nirvana. That is right. The end of the rainbow.
And to me, it's a privilege that I think few people actually have, because most jobs you get paid to do shit that nobody wants to do.
That's why they pay you for it.
That's why they pay you for it.
It's so shitty they'll pay you to do it.
Right. They have to compensate you. But if you can find a way to, like you said, getting paid to do something you love, or like getting paid to do something you would do for free. Like yes. Right now I'm getting paid by you and by the American taxpayer to design shit for robots. I do it for free.
Joke's on you. I don't make any money.
Oh, you will eventually.
I will eventually, and you'll get a fat slice of it. Yeah, but you're right. It's
and it's like, this is something literally not so much this summer because we can't travel because of Corona, but last summer I was sitting in a lab playing with electronics for like 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
I sit at my desk at home and do that for free. Yeah. So the fact that I got paid for it, I was like happy. I was just so happy. I was like, man, this is awesome.
That's what I always thought to myself. Like, what would I do if I was the way I look at it is like, what would I do if I found out that this was all just a simulation and that I was the only person, none of this is actually real? What would I do? And even back when I thought it was Photoshop, and then I was like, well, if I had like $1 billion and none of this was real, like I definitely wouldn't be making this bumper sticker for this client. Like I like it, but I don't love it. And I was like, what is it that and yeah, even if this was all simulation and none of this was real, there's nothing I love more than just fucking chatting with people for 2 hours a day. Reading audio, listening to audiobooks. I get to doing one tomorrow with my friend, and we just finished a Lockheed Martin book. We're gonna talk about fucking Area 51 and stealth jets.
Oh, is it Skunk Works?
Skunk Works, by Ben Rich.
Oh, Dude, I could talk forever about like the SR-71, the F-117, like those are like.
Are you free?
We still haven't made anything that awesome.
Are you free tomorrow? We're doing it tomorrow. You should come on tomorrow.
What time is it? What time is it tomorrow? I gotta work.
I don't know. Is there any time you can get free? Because we haven't set on a time yet. It's normally later. I don't know. 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. I don't know.
I think my meeting's at 2, so probably like 3ish or 4ish. But even if I just sit in and like, cause dude,
we're doing it tomorrow in Skunkworks. We're literally. Yeah, we've been doing episodes where it's like we're making like our own like book club. We're like, the last one we did was about Operation Paperclip. The one before that was about nuclear bunkers. We'll both listen to the same book. It sounds so like sleepover like loser shit, but dude, we listen to the same book and then we'll just discuss it for an hour or two. Yeah, we're doing Skunkworks. I got like 2 hours left in the book. We're doing it tomorrow. Yeah, you need to join. You need to join.
Dude, like, and there's so many interesting stories. Like, the tools for the SR-71 didn't exist.
They had to make the tools.
They tricked Russia into giving them all the titanium.
Yeah, the CIA with the front companies getting the titanium alloys and shit. They could only do certain things in certain weathers because the water was chlorinated and it was melting through the... What the fuck?
Oh, dude, did you ever hear about the Sounds of Freedom?
Yeah. What was that? The Sound of Freedom. The booms? Yeah.
The fact, there's a pilot. Do you listen to the Fighter Pilot podcast by any chance?
No, but I know I need to because I've heard other people talk about it several times.
It's awesome. And so they brought out an SR-71 pilot, and he said that Reagan would purposely like he would tell the pilots, "Oh yeah, fly over this area, break the sound barrier, let them know that we here."
Yeah, I finally found it. I'll send you. I know we got to go. I finally found it, but it was an old lecture I watched. It was the Skunkworks VP in 2015. Whoever, not Ben Rich. Ben Rich died a while ago. But he talked about it was in some South American country where the Soviets were like having a beachhead, and said there was some revolution, some like Che Guevara shit, just some dirty commies, and they lined it up so they were like. Because they were giving some speech in the square about like the capitalist pigs will never. They lined it up so they had dual SR-71s go by at Mach 3. It's something like under a mile above, so like 3,500 feet. Mach 3 booms, and they said they had them cross the whatever square this was. So as they're giving a speech about how the imperialist pigs will never be here, it like blew out the speakers. As this fucking revolutionary, this dirty Marxist bitch is the dirty boom, and these two fucking, and this is like the 60s, like this isn't even like 2020 where you kind of expect it. This is the 60s where color TV was a luxury. These motherfuckers, and the VP of Skunkworks smiles. He goes, "That was there to let them know that we were there and." We were there with impunity. It's God damn, man. These guys, dude, some of the shit they did was so badass.
Oh yeah, man. And I kind of like. I've got a few more minutes. Like you.
Oh sure, yeah, I get it. Yes.
Aerospace, space nerd. So like in being a space nerd, as a kid I didn't appreciate it, but as an adult I do appreciate the aeronautics that paved the way for spaceflight. And so. Just some of the stories, man, where the innovations that they came up with the SR-71, like
F-117,
yeah. Oh, dude, the F-117. It's so funny. It has one of the pilots on the podcast because he flew the F-117. He said that one of the nicknames, because of course everybody knows it as the wobbling goblin.
Yeah.
But he said the pilots would call it the wet dream because it came in the middle of the night and you weren't expecting it.
That's beautiful.
Oh yeah,
that's fucking beautiful. Came in the middle of the night, you weren't expecting it.
Right. Yeah, and then he also went into the story about he was bombing some bridges. It's when like Saddam Hussein set the oil fields on fire, and he had like this crazy night where he almost died because he dropped his bombs too low and almost crashed because of the aftershock. And both times when he went to go refuel, the person that was operating the boomstick or was in the tanker was a woman, and she was just flashing all the pilots. Like, dude, I will send you that episode.
Please
like,
do. Please do. Yeah, dude, it's the craziest shit they did, man.
Yeah, and it's like, because don't get me wrong, being black and American, you have a complicated relationship, but there are instances where like aerospace for me makes me so patriotic. Where
Dude,
I'm like, yes,
it fucking there's almost like a certain, and it kind of sucks, but like patriotism is definitely not like in. I don't think it has been since like the 90s. But like I can't help but listen to these, and I'm just like, fucking America, and like you almost don't want to be that like, that like hoorah, like, because there is a lot of wrong in the world and with our country, but like other times I listen to this shit and I'm just like, god damn it, like, and like it sucks because like no one's really proud to say it, but like really am proud to be an American. It's not just some like propaganda shit. Yeah, you read about the SR-71 and you're just like, fucking yes.
or like, for example, the SpaceX launch. Yeah, I'm so conflicted because on the one hand, I watched the video of George Floyd getting choked out, and I feel that, and it's like, oh my god, and you realize that
it's happening. It's not. Yeah, this is real.
Is real, and on the and I couldn't. That moment soured something that was so special to me because. On the other hand, like within that same week, we had the SpaceX launch, and dude, let me tell you, like. Part of the reason why I went to med school was because they canceled the shuttle, and I was like, well, fuck, I don't know what to do. Like, so to see that happen and realize, like, no, the dream isn't dead. Like, I legit cried during that launch. But it's a duality. Like, I want to feel proud. Like, this instance makes me, like, the things we put in the sky makes me feel so proud. But at the same time, like, damn, like,
dude, I'm with you the same way, man. That was a big thing. I remember thinking I was like, man, there's this poetic duality of like, on one hand, we're like barbaric Stone Ages where it's like okay to kill a dude because he's got a different like pigment composition, and then in like this same society, we're putting people on space and landing the rockets, and it's like it exists in the same universe, right? It's like. It's hard, it is conflicting. It's, I think, part of like growing up, like in the time we did, it's like cool to be woke. It's cool to be like America does a lot of bad, and it's true. But then like I also can't help but like realize that it's like it's by no means perfect. But I think it's the least imperfect place in the world. Like it's by no means like. And that's one thing I've started to like finally realize, and probably within the last couple weeks, I'm like, it is okay to be patriotic and be like, dude, like we live in a place that's like safe enough that like, in regards to the rest of like recorded history, it is better. It's okay to acknowledge that it is by no means finished. The bipedal organism, the simulations, like this is a brutal iteration we're going through right now. We're going through the riot iteration with the pandemic iteration, and it has the racism patch. Like it's a shitty bump in the software, but like I'm like, damn, like of all the powers that there could be, CCP, USSR, Nazis, I'm like, damn, this is the least imperfect. And it's like, it's okay to like hate aspects of it, but you don't gotta throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can be like, there are also people that like are wonderful people, and it's okay to be like, we are the nation that built the SR-71, like fucking killed Hitler, like went in and like knocked out the psychopathic Japanese in World War II. We're also the ones that, civil rights we're still not there. Like, and there is a sort of like, you gotta come to peace with that it's not all or nothing. You can hate aspects of it. You can be like, I lived in southern Georgia, man. I tell you right now, that place is 1865. My first night working at a bar said, make sure they have shoes, make sure they have shirts, and no blacks. This was in 2010. Wrap your head around that. But you can't throw out the whole country with that, because then there are people that aren't racist at all, and they're just launching fucking self-guiding rockets that land back down on the launch pads, and it's like, or self-driving cars, or same-day delivery Amazon, and it's like, It's okay to get riled up and be patriotic. Don't drink all the Kool-Aid. Like, because there are a lot of bad things.
Right.
But also, don't be ashamed to, like, fucking be proud. Like, a lot of guys died at our age in the European and Japanese theaters of war that never got to, you know, find their true love of robotics or podcast because they took a 50 cal through the forehead, right? And it's... So I try to look at it like, yes, be critical. Don't let shit like the George Floyd murder go unchecked. Don't throw the whole thing out, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think be critical, and yes. I feel like that's and being in engineering, that's a skill set that we're taught, is how to be critical and it not be a personal thing. Like,
yeah.
I have to listen to designs and say, like, that's not the best design, and you have to say it in a way that isn't insulting,
yeah.
but it's honest and
yeah.
and direct and technically correct. And I think what we as a country fail to do is we fail to be critical and say this is the good, this is the bad. We either see all good or we either see all bad. It's because again, when I look at like the 60s, for example, like part of me when I look at aerospace in the 60s, not like dude, you seen the X-15? They were launching that shit up into space and coming back down.
50s, dude. Late 50s, they were hitting hypersonics.
Yes, and
we're still not there.
Part of me, like I see the duality in that. I would have loved to be alive in that time just to see what it was like. But then the other half of me knows
fire
that
hoses on black people, and you're like, oh fuck, this was that same time. Like,
dude, I wouldn't have been flying those planes.
No, they wouldn't have let you on there. They wouldn't have let you near there. It's, man. There's this terrible. But yeah, I think the idea that we need to tear the whole thing down. America, there's a lot wrong with it, but there are other alternate timelines where there can be powers that a George Floyd type murder or travesty would be the least of our problems.
But
look at the Muslim concentration camps in China as we speak. Look at the 6 million Jews dead in Nazi Germany. And I'm not trying to downplay George Floyd, but I'm like, that is a good problem to have. All things considered. You got to get out there. You got to protest. You got to make your voice heard. It could be a lot worse. And it's easy for me to say. I'm a white dude, man. It's,
Right. Yeah, so with me, it's not on a scale of it could be better or worse. It's we could be living in a timeline where a George Floyd murder would be perfectly acceptable and cheered.
Yeah.
That's the scary part. And one thing that I am generally, how do I say this and not sound offensive? But we're not trying to be PC here.
Yeah, I don't
one of the good parts about this whole situation is that it's something that everybody can look at. Like, doesn't matter where you fall on the political spectrum. Everybody who saw that video was like,
everyone agrees. Everyone's like,
and that hasn't happened before. And
very
true. That's a big push for civil rights, because now you have everybody saying, oh shit, that is a problem. Whereas before, like, it's like, oh, well, he attacked the cop.
Yeah, what was it, Michael Brown? Was that him?
Yeah.
Trayvon. There are still people that are like, well, And this is the first time where everyone's like, and it came out, George Floyd pistol whipped a pregnant woman. But even when that came out, it's like, even the Nazis got fair trials, man. That's not okay. It doesn't matter what he did in the past. The cop didn't know that, and even if he did, that doesn't matter. You got to look at it. It could have been me. I could have pistol whipped someone in the past, or it could just be Aaron, who's just building fucking robots, right? And you're right. This is a universal thing where even when that came out, there are people like, it doesn't matter, man. Like, you can't do that. You cannot do that. I had on the Delta Force guys, and they were like, to me, that's a cop that cold hard killers, and they were like, you can't do that. You're right. This is the first time where 99.999% of people are like, that's not good. That can't happen.
Right. And so from a civil rights standpoint, like, this is where I was having a conversation about this, I think, last week, but this is a once in a 20 plus year occurrence where you can make major leaps and bounds. Like, you could, I don't know if you could make it on the same magnitude as the civil rights movement as far as how not just legislation was changed, but cultural perspective. But this is that caliber because it's universally wrong. You can see it's racially motivated. Everybody agrees. I mean, even because I live in the part of South Carolina that is red as can be, and the people that I work with, big burly proud South Carolinians are like, that's wrong. And that's powerful. So I think if we have those conversations and we push for change, or we push for progress and change in that aspect, this would be one of the times, like one of the rare times in a generation where we can actually budget just a little bit.
Make a move,
And then somebody else would make a move, somebody else would make a move. And then when we get to Mars, it won't fucking matter because, you don't care about race. Like, Mars doesn't care who you are. Mars is going to kill you.
Mars doesn't give a fuck. Mars is COVID on steroids. It doesn't give a fuck if you're marching for a haircut or for George Floyd. It will kill you, right? It's
right.
But you're right, man. Because I remember I was even texting my friends from Valdosta. And I remember even, to me, it was even kind of shocking because they were like, man, that guy was murdered in cold blood. And it was like, you guys have Confederate flags on your trucks. But they were like, that's fucked up, man. And it was like, damn, you're right. This is I mean, Trump allocated $100 billion to black community revitalization, which you need to get your hands on for your company. I wrote that down. I meant to mention it earlier. You got to get your fingers in there, man. You could use it for your outreach. But it's $1/10 of $1 trillion in the wake of the George Floyd. That's real. It wasn't just a thing where everyone changed their profile picture on Facebook and then it disappeared in a week, right?
Yeah, no, this stick.
Yeah, and you're right, and I said that we gotta go. I had a podcast a couple weeks ago, and we were actually with the guy that I'm doing the SR7, not at the Skunkworks one with tomorrow. We were like, how odd are the similarities with the 60s? Right, it's turbulent times. You got peace, war, left, right, hippie, conservative, serve your country versus baby killers. And in the meantime of all this chaos, we're landing on the moon. Rockets are landing as a private company is docking with the International Space Station. It's I don't know if that's good or bad. Mirroring the 60s, I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's time is cyclical. The seasons are cycles. The definition of a day is a cycle. The definition of a year is a big ass circle.
Big ass cycle, yeah. That's the scientific
honestly,
term. Big ass.
We could just be on a second go round, and maybe it's a 60s level era where we make those leaps and bounds socially and technologically, and hopefully it leads to something that's a little bit better. That's the way I feel about it.
Maybe these are just huge 50-year bipedal iterations. We did the first one where we went to the moon. The president ended up getting shot in the head, and then it kind of petered out for 30 years. Actually, no, it kind of went into a Cold War. I don't know, man. China, we could be going in a Cold War part 2. What would drive us to What would drive us to Mars faster?
I think I told you these jokes, but I have my famous 3 things that would get us to the moon in 2 weeks or less. The first thing on the list is if China goes to the moon and tweets a picture of them kicking over the American flag.
Motherfucker.
Oh, they do. Part of me
kind of hope that happens. I kind of hope that happens.
Yeah, no, the space enthusiast in me is because literally they would do that on Friday. And we would be launching up the next Tuesday. NASA would be like, "Oh yeah, we had the rockets there the whole time."
Yeah. You can use Trump's childish. You can use his child nature to your advantage.
Right.
Imagine if China kicked over the American flag. Trump would be like, as of today, $3 trillion allotted to getting us to Mars, by October, and he'd fucking do it. We'd all be like, yeah. I don't know, man. China's throwing billions at their own nuclear fusion reactor. The fusion scientists I had on were like, these two British guys are like, part of me likes it because this is the only thing that's going to get America in the game. Because we're going to be like, oh, China's doing it? All right, motherfuckers. Like, that's how you're going to see it happen. Yeah. Why else would you go to the moon? Oh, the Soviets are gonna? We will go to the moon and do the other things by the end of this decade. Like, Mars, we don't work rationally. We're not like, yeah, we should probably have a backup for civilization. Even in the eyes of global warming and COVID, we're still like, yeah, we'll probably be better. You put China there, we'll be there tomorrow. There and
say, oh, well, if we go, then the technology trickle down will be amazing because you basically got your cell phone because of the moon.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
Yeah. But do we want to maybe another Cold War is where it's at, man?
Yeah, because I mean the SR-71 Cold War.
Everything Cold War, man.
Cold War, yeah,
everything.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, like as messed up as it may sound, you want another A-bomb because the A-bomb is what sparked the Cold War. You
do. You want another.
Well, from a technology standpoint, from a humanitarian standpoint, it's
terrible. But goddamn, man. What about the humanitarian side effects of that trickle-down technology, man?
Yeah.
It's a dicey thing, but I mean...
It's the duality.
Maybe it's what we need, though, because, like, we're not going to Mars because of global warming or the pandemic or the fragility of human life. But if China goes, that's when you see the American machine come to life. It fucking wipes the sleep out of its eyes, and it's like, cracks its knuckles, and it's like, let's make Saturn V look like a firecracker, right?
Yes.
But you almost need that. You almost need that, right? You got to get that. I might ask that girl out, and then you see some better-looking guy. You're like, I'm gonna marry that bitch, right? It's sometimes you need it, man. Sometimes you need that competition, but. The thing about the
what drives evolution, man.
Yeah, you got to have that competitiveness, man. The whole thing about the Cold War is like edging. It's like it can be really good, man, but if it goes hot, this isn't just some Afghanistan conflict. This is global thermonuclear elimination. I don't know, man. Maybe Cold War might be good if it stays cold. I hope I don't get cold.
It has to stay cold.
It's got to stay cold.
Man, China would be like, yeah, we're launching somebody to Mars in 3 years. America in 3 weeks would be like, oh, by the way, we invented a warp drive. We can go.
Oh yeah. You'd see Trump take half the defense budget. Like, use that man's mind. Use that man's ego to our advantage, man. It's like I don't know. It's like what Hunter S. Thompson said about fear. He said, like, fear is like a wild, powerful animal. Put it in front of you and have it pull your chariot. Use it to your advantage. If it turns on you, put a shotgun on it. Don't let it hurt you. But use it to your advantage. Ride that monster. Can you imagine if Trump thought he could be the president that Mars happened under? God damn, man. What a better egotistical asshole. And I like Trump. I know a lot of people hate me for it. But goddamn, you could use that to your advantage. You're like, hey, Trump, China is going to kick your ass. Fuck, we'll be there. We'll be there yesterday.
we'll be there in 2 weeks. Yeah, like personally speaking, I'm not a fan of Trump, but
yeah,
again,
that's fine. I was gonna say, people always come on here. They're like, well, I don't like him. I'm like, that's awesome. Say it. You're not hurting my feelings. Shit on that asshole's face. I don't care.
It's being objective though, and saying like, okay, because for space, he has been relatively good, although some of his shit was kind of fucked up because he cut from like the science budget.
Yeah. No, he's not perfect by no means.
No, and no president is. As much as I love Obama and think he's
Obama,
top 10 president, he still made mistakes. Like
7 wars, man. And I voted for him, but like, you're right. You're right. Like can it be used to our advantage?
Yeah, or it not just necessarily his ego, but American ego.
I think he exemplifies us. That we don't, for better or worse, in terms of like.
Yeah, no, you have a point.
It's if China or someone like we're gonna go to the moon, or we're gonna go there, we're gonna do it by the end of this decade. And all of a sudden, we start looking at pictures of ourselves, and it's like, man, we went to the moon, and we're not doing that anymore. What better thing to bring us all together, man, than some glorious goal, right?
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, man, and it's, I don't know. Is that what needs to happen? Part of me is like, it's so sad that that's the only thing that can get us going is like an enemy. And another part of me is like, why don't you just accept it for what it is and use it? You know?
Yeah, that's the engineer in me where it's like, ideally I would want
ideal
a Mars
conditions.
shot
Yeah.
I would want a Mars shot to be like, yes, we're going to advance humanity. This is what we're supposed to do. But, you know, if it not even China, if it's like Independence Day and all of a sudden we're facing an extraterrestrial threat or something like that, and that unifies us to get off of the planet and start colonizing, well, not colonizing, but exploring the galaxy.
Yeah, colonizing everything. Go for it. Then,
I mean, if that's what it takes, I mean, it's not perfect, but again, in engineering, you don't care about perfect, you care about what it is, and you're trying to get it to work.
I mean, ideally, I wish everyone would rally behind me and subscribe to my podcast, and this is awesome. What's the reality? Everyone's kind of like, why didn't you become a doctor? So instead of wondering and complaining about how it could be, what is it? Well, right. I think I just need to pave this road on my own, and one day it'll work, and I'll be able to say, told you so. So that's just the reality, and it sucks. But like the reality is like my car's broken down and I gotta walk there. We can bitch about it all you want. Just start walking, man. It's like, just start walking. And it's like, it sucks. Maybe we need some competitiveness to get to Mars. Maybe we need some egotistical douche like Trump. Like, for the record, for anyone listening, I like him. I don't worship him. He's an asshole. Let's use that asshole to our advantage. Be like, hey, they said that you could never get to Mars. They said that you're low energy. Motherfucker, we'd have fusion engines tomorrow.
Yeah, they said you would never get to Mars, and you got a tiny dick.
Yeah, they said you got a tiny dick. They said that's why. They said that you're not smart enough. They said that you're just not great enough. That's how you get it.
We'd have a fusion engine in like 3 days, and it would work perfect.
You'd see Area 51 open up. You'd see Skunkworks getting an infusion of $300 billion. That's how it happens, man.
Yeah.
And apparently Melania really likes the idea of going to Mars, but, you know, she can hitch a ride with us if you can't bring her. That's how you get America up, man. That's our Viagra. That's how you get us going. Have some motherfuckers shit on us and then go do something and say we can't do it.
Oh, yeah.
That's how it's done.
Same with so literally that's what happened with spaceflight. Soviet Union was like, yeah, we put a fucking satellite up, we put a person up, and we put a woman up,
we put up a dog. We put up a dog. Like,
yeah, they put up all this stuff, and America was like, oh, okay. one small step, mother.
One fall. Yeah, you put a dog up there. Watch me drive from the Sea of Tranquility, motherfucker. Like, right? You know, that's how it's done. You put a Russian flag up there, bam. We didn't just go up there, we brought up our own whip, too. And we left it there. That's how big dick energy we were. We don't even need that car. I got 3 more. Leave that one on the moon. Fuck you.
Yeah, we just leave it. Yeah, what's that, $1 billion? That ain't shit to us.
Oh, you don't think we were there? Here, I'll leave a mirror up there the next time I'm up there, because I'm up there, and you can shoot a laser at it and it'll come back. And you'll know because the mirror's there. Because I put it there while I was driving. Asshole. Like, hey man, it's maybe, have you ever seen that video where it's like Obama telling Trump he won't be president and it like zooms in on Trump? And it's like they set the what is it? What's that there's like a meme to it. Fuck. Curb Your Enthusiasm. Have you seen that? You know, like, and it's like Obama, like, at least I will go down as a president, and it's like zooming in on Trump's face, and it's like womp womp womp, and it's like, but then it zooms out, and it's like the video's on a guy's phone, and it zooms out, and he's standing at the Trump inauguration, and it's like, as it happens, clearly the dude will do it, if not purely for egotistical reasons. Maybe we just gotta like get China to tell him that you'll never go to Mars because your dick's tiny, you're too fat, your hair's fake. If you want to say it to our face, we'll be on Mars waiting for you. Dude, that's how we get there yesterday.
I'm allocating $400 trillion so that way we can beat China to Mars.
Dude, that is how you will goddamn see. Yeah, you're right. You got to use that to your advantage, man. It's
and to cycle back around, there's an interesting quote from Neil Armstrong that I really like, and he talks about being an engineer and what that means to him. And he's like, science is about what is, and engineering is about what can be. And that made me think, like, in our trade, I'm looking at the world as it is, and it's kind of like the left brain, right brain, the brain disassociating. I'm looking at the world as it is. I'm trying to see what it can be, and I'm trying to manipulate everything in the world to bring it to that idea.
Yeah.
So part of it is, and this is why I'm very vocal about teaching, about presenting kind of the philosophy of science and engineering, is that part of the things, one of the things that I've learned to really accept is, like, you just got to accept the system as it is and try to change it.
Yes.
Like, accept the system, know the rules, and try to manipulate it to your endpoint. Humans weren't born with wings, so we can't naturally fly. Well, guess what? If you move air over something,
lower the pressure and raise that bitch. Yeah,
and then so from there you can be like, oh well, shit, let's put an engine on it so that way it can move the air past.
Let's go to the fucking moon. Yeah, you're right. It's accept it for what it's a sober examination of what is. Right? When I got into medical school and realized I didn't want to go, I started thinking, what if I put all this effort into something else? And then losing a brother to suicide, I really had to come to terms with the reality that things happen, and they happened. Good or bad, reason or not, creator or no creator, nihilism, I don't know. It happened. It is what it is. What are you going to do about it? And it's, okay, so let's start, Last December, like I said, the time is going to pass. Let's just start doing an episode a day. Blink your eyes, be at 121. It's, where are we right now? What is here right now? Okay, it sucks, but saying that it sucks isn't going to help us. Sitting on the ground and going, I wish we had wings. I hate these stupid feet. That didn't get us anywhere. What got us there was thousands upon thousands of test pilot deaths, and finally getting there, right? That's how we finally got there. That's SpaceX landing rockets. It didn't happen like that.
No.
Billions of dollars of equipment blew up.
Right. And again, it's that if you're on that journey, if you're doing something big, I guess we're bringing it back for the moral content of the podcast, because otherwise it's just us dicking around.
Otherwise it's just us jerking each other off. Oh, we're both going for our dreams. Oh, we're so smart. Fucking just a couple of douchebags. Our egos are inflating like hot air balloons.
Right, but again, I'm a space guy, so think about, for as long as humanity has existed, tens of thousands of years, how many people have looked up at the moon and said, dang, I want to go there?
Yeah.
And, over centuries, over millennia, people, the technology advanced, and finally at some point we were able to, plant flags and drive and park our whips on it and say, fuck it.
One small step, motherfucker. Aaron Shepard, 2020. You're right, man.
Yeah, if I ever go to the moon, that'll be one small step,
motherfucker.
We in here now.
We out here.
Side note, I think, growing up, I've always, there are a lot of black kids. Well, I can't speak for all of us, but I know some black kids want to be the first black person to do something. I want to be the first black person on the moon. I don't know if that'll happen, but I think that would be pretty dope.
I think you can do it. Hasn't happened. Fuck yeah, man. You got to do the first Instagram post on the moon. That's going to be big dick swinging. When you start seeing posts tagged on the moon, and it's literally just all y'all in my selfie, whether you want to be or not, and you just take a selfie with the Earth.
Yeah.
Tag yourself, right? It's that's going to be big dick swinging, man.
That is, that's BDE.
Yeah, big dick energy, baby. On that note, I've kept you 30 minutes longer than I said I would. I apologize.
Oh, man, it's all good. It's all good, man. We just having fun talking.
Fuck yeah. That's why I love having you on, is whenever I start to apologize for, you're like, dude, You're like, this is why I do it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'm just having fun. Like, yeah, but dude, like BDE, like but again, I think like part of that, it's the side of the American identity that we have to embrace. Like, yeah, we tend to be short-sighted. We're young as a country. We're fucked up in a lot of ways, but we've done some pretty dope stuff. Like,
yeah, there's nothing good about only looking at the negative. Like, be aware of it, but what would you get at, like nihilism? We just said, fuck that guy. What would you get at it being like, America sucks, fuck this place? Do you want to live in a place that you think sucks and fuck this place? How about, I don't know, like, there's a lot of cool shit, there's a lot of bad shit. Let's try to move that balance so there's more cool shit and less bad shit. Right here, we got George Floyd here, we got SpaceX going to the ISS here. Let's tip that scale so there's more good and less bad. Like, that's the way to look at it, is like, because if you throw out the whole system, you're going to get some place that's all bad.
Right. And like, for me personally, with the George Floyd and SpaceX, like, I'm using that to my advantage because since I have the unique perspective of being part of both communities, in the sense that I'm a part of the space community and I'm a part of the Black community. And so being able to tie the two together and use that as a perspective. So, you know, from the space side, I can say like, hey, this was awesome, but look at all this injustice that happened and look at how that makes me feel. And I can bring attention to it that way. And on the same token, I can, for people that I know who are suffering, who are like, man, this all sucks, I can be like, yo, we back in space, dog. Like,
we're back. Like, dude, we're at the beginning of the second space race.
Yes.
Like, get that through your head. We're going to live for it. Like, we're going to be alive for it. That's insane.
Yes. I can tell you now, from a NASA perspective, everything is done. All we're talking about is the moon.
It's happening. There's no more 40 years of blue balling, man. Like, it's happening.
No.
Like, happening.
No,
happening status.
My team is actually, my team is actually building robots right now to like assemble shit on the moon, so that way you can have power when the astronauts get there. That's
where we like. That's happening. Mission. That's happening. Like, look at the brilliance.
$2.5 million mission, and that's a drop in the bucket. That's a small one. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, yeah, see what you can do with that.
Yeah.
So we're part of the second space race, and I think that it's a wonderful opportunity, like, to not only get us somewhere, get us back up in space again or back on the moon, but it's a wonderful opportunity to teach and to because, again, one of the things that makes space so appealing to me is space does not give a fuck what the color of your skin is or who you vote for or none of that. Like,
yeah, I'll kill all of you.
Yeah, so when you're in, like, we're on the ISS right now with a bunch of Russians. Like,
yeah. It's
they don't have time to fight.
Yeah, it's like what you said about like Yosemite, it's not Yosemite, Yellowstone. You're like, what I like about this was like right after the George Floyd protests. Aaron and I were texting because we're fucking besties, and we're talking about Yellowstone possibly exploding and killing all of us. And you're like, you know what? I at least like it because it's an equal opportunity destroyer. And it's like, you're right. You gotta, space doesn't give a fuck. You got it, orbital velocity. I don't give a fuck where you're from. Oh, you got blonde hair, blue eyes. I don't give a shit. I'll send you burning into the atmosphere just the same. Oh, you're black? Cool. Down into the atmosphere. Fuck all of y'all. Like, you can't grow your own crops and create your own oxygen? You're here to die. I don't care about your color or creed. Like, eat you alive. Yeah. Doesn't matter if you have, if you have dark skin, you might get sunburned less. Bullshit. Interplanetary space. You want some of that irradiation? I don't give a fuck what color your skin is. I'll cook you all the same, motherfuckers.
Oh my god! But yeah, and again, like, that's the beauty of spaceflight, because it makes us realize, like, oh, that's like spaceflight makes us realize that our little bitty problems ain't shit. Like,
we'll close it out on was it Carl Sagan that said, if aliens came to Earth and saw our differences, it would be like us looking at different types of grass, as opposed to just saying it's all grass. So you look at your lawn, there's a lot of different types of grass on your lawn, but you don't know. You just go, it's fucking grass.
Yeah, it's grass,
That's how absurd our differences are to an outsider. You come in, and we're like, well, they're black and we're white, and They're just like, what? You're all fucking like shitting, pissing bipedal organisms to me. Like, you're equally worthless. On that note, I have now kept you 40 minutes longer than I said it would. I'm sorry, Aaron.
No, you're good, man. You are good. It's always a pleasure. Love being on. Love talking. Because we start with tech, then we talk about life.
And then it's unsavable. It's just unsalvageable. It just goes off the deep end.
Yeah, it's like a Reddit conversation, but with only the good parts.
Yeah. None of the fuck you, I'm gonna rape your mom. Like, Jesus, dude. I'm sorry. I just didn't think the song was good.
Side note too, like, there have been a couple of times where I've been on Reddit and like somebody said something and I'm just like, oh, well, I don't agree, here's why, but I see the point. And the comments that I got were, whoa, like, you could actually peacefully disagree with somebody on here?
That's what I found. I found that as a tactic. If I really don't like what they said to me and it starts to boil my blood, I just say, like, agree to disagree, or I say, oh, I didn't know that. Like, or no. The go-to is, yeah, you're probably right. No one knows how to... You get ready, they're like, fuck you, you're wrong. Yeah, you're probably right. American flag, poop emoji, hang loose. What? What? It just, no one knows it. Yeah, you're probably right. Or
honestly, like, too, outside of scientific facts, like, all of this shit is just opinion. So, like, opinion is subjective as hell. Like,
it's like Bill Hicks. He's like, so, your opinions and your beliefs, they're just that. They're your opinions and beliefs. Well, I believe that God, okay. It's your belief. It's...
And two, so you can't... one thing that I'm learning is that when I talk to people with different opinions, like, me talking to them 9 times out of 10 isn't going to change their opinion. It's just to learn kind of... I just enjoy the process of the conversation and learning how different people think. And it helps me solidify my own opinions half the time, because then I can say, well, he said that America is terrible, but, I can show where... Yeah, we made a whole bunch of cool jets, and that made everybody want to go into science. And, what if, like, the people that invented Google got into computers because of something they saw on TV, which was inspired by somebody who saw the SR-71 fly and say, oh, science is cool.
Yeah.
Like, and again, it's having that global perspective that I think we just lack as a species. And that's why the people who show it are considered visionaries, or they're so awarded and recognized.
That's another thing I found is, like, when I talk to someone, I'm like, I'm not going to change their mind, and they're not going to change mine. So instead, I'm like, let's see how tolerant I can be of someone else's belief and not get riled up. Earlier in the conversation, I like Trump. Aaron, I don't like Trump. Cool. Conversation. An hour later of laughing and talking. It's not just, oh, you're wrong, fuck you. It's right. No, it's right back to the SR-71. Shit that matters, right? It's
America swinging its dick all over the world.
It's just like an elephant trunk. Whack.
Sound of freedom. Like, I popped it. Have you actually listened to the audio of it? It's beautiful.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Like, when I heard that story, I was like, oh, that is so fucking badass. Like, that is awesome.
Gives you goosebumps, man. It's just like,
wow.
On that note, let's wrap this bitch up. I'll text you, see if you can make an appearance tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. Here, let me, I'll look on my schedule.
Tell me the best time you have, and I'll talk to the other guy. Because I would love someone else to gangbang this Skunkworks talk.
Yeah, no, I haven't read the book, but again, I know a little bit about Skunkworks. I know what they do. I thought about applying there, but it's hard to land there. But
we just had a conversation about going for your dreams and never turning down. You can't just say, "Oh, I don't think I could do it." Fuck you, Aaron. Apply there.
Well, no, I got other things going on, man. Like, you can't go for all your dreams. You got to pick one or two. Like,
I think you can go for all of them in time.
In time, like okay, Elon, for example, like he's
doing them all.
He's doing them all, but he does it in stages. Like, sometimes it's Tesla, sometimes it's SpaceX, sometimes it's...
Before that, it was Zip 2. Before that, it was you just had to get the bankroll. Right. He didn't have a passion for PayPal. It was just he understood the chess move.
Yep.
And that's how it's... Yeah.
And so, like, same with me. Like, sometimes it's Cogito, sometimes it's NASA, sometimes it's whatever. But either way, like, I pick a section, focus on it, develop it up, and then when I'm not that I'm abandoning the section, but I'm focusing somewhere else just for the change of pace. Like, sometimes it's good to worry about running a startup, and then sometimes I just want to sit there and watch NASA do stuff and just be like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And not really have to think about, like, oh, well, how am I going to get funding for this next project, or who am I going to have to talk to, like, who am I going to have to strip for to pay for these robots?
Shit, Aaron, I'll pay for you, man. I'll get some. All right, dude, my bladder's about to explode again.
Yeah, man.
This is a long one, so this is going to take a while to upload, so it probably won't be up tonight, but I'll send you the link, and I'll text you about tomorrow, and as always, let's do another one.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah. All right. I'm getting in on the ground floor, so that way when you become really big...
Exactly. I get it. I understand and I respect it. It's an investment. You'll
have all these people, then you'll have me. It's like, why is he here? It's like, oh, I was there from...
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I get it, man. I get it. It's brilliant. I respect it, because you're helping me. How come you can always get on TPC? There from the beginning, bitch.
Yeah.
Hey, man, it's investment. I get it. I'm not insulted. I'm complimented.
Exactly. Long-term value.
Yeah.
That's what I told my wife. Like, when I looked at my wife, I was like, oh, you're an investment girl. You're going to be good in 50 years. Like, you're going to look good in 50 years, and I know it. So
this is a blue chip stock, baby. Slow and steady. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Exactly. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but she's like, well, why me? Like, I'm like, because
bitch, you're beautiful. That's why. You make my knees weak, bitch. That's why. It's beautiful.
And you gonna stay that way too. I saw your mom. Your mom looks good, so I'm gonna give it good.
Ooh, Aaron, do you want me to slip that out? That could come back to bite you. I'm just kidding. I'm not editing that out. Fuck you. Black don't crack, baby.
Yeah. Hey, one of the benefits, you know.
Not white, man. Not white. By the time I'm 30, I'll look 50. So.
Yeah, well, that's actually an interesting thing to me too. Is like how different races age. Because like Asians, for example, don't age at all, and then around 65,
they get like 200 years.
Yeah, it's like whoa.
Yeah.
I know that sounds wrong and stereotypical.
No, it's not. It's true, man. Same with like Russian girls. Russian girls are either the hottest girl you've ever seen in your life, or it's like some homely babushka. There's no. It's like a Melania Trump, or it's like, would you like some porridge? Like, there's nothing in between. It's not racist, man. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's like, but like, my roommate, his grandma is in her 70s, and she looks like she's about 35. I'm like, a black lady too. And it's not just black; it's deep Southern black.
Yeah.
Like, something about it just doesn't age.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's beautiful. Aaron, you gotta find me one of these investment girls, all right? All right, brother.
All right, man. You take care.
Godspeed.
It's a pleasure. Godspeed.
And like we talked about over our text, if the cops kill you, I will avenge you. I'll burn down a fucking city for you.
Good.
All right, man.
All right. Well, what you can do is find a way to bring me back. Like use your ingenuity, bring me back from the dead, make me the ultimate killing machine, and then
cryogenic, preserve your body, bring you back, maybe some Neuralink, genetic engineering, wait until nanotechnology. We're gonna keep going. I'm gonna shut this off. All right, dude. We'll save it for the next one. I'll text you about tomorrow. All right?
Definitely, man. All right. You take care.
Peace, dude. You too.
Peace.